What are rich people problems like? My rich friend has no kids, so he's trying to figure out how to spend all his money before he dies so it doesn't go to some cousins he doesn't like. If I just mention something I like, he'll buy it for me immediately. It's ridiculous. Your friend kind of sounds like Bilbo. Damn those Saxville Bagginses. Figuring out how to give your kids everything they want without turning them into spoiled brats who are messed up for life. They want your time and attention more than anything else. It's really important before 10 years of age. Substituting toys, video games, and outside activities with other people rather than your parents is not constructive at all. No, it's a lie. Just give them a PS5 and you will acquire inner peace. I used to work in fine art shipping, and rich people would constantly call and ask if we could remind them which house we'd ship their expensive artwork to. They would have trouble remembering. And just to verify, that is not my billing address either, correct? Ah, wait, maybe the Platinum MasterCard is addressed to the house in the Hamptons. Okay, I'm actually going to answer the question seriously. For context, I was born in a wealthy family, not obscenely rich, but well off. I'm perfectly aware that these problems are frivolous compared to what others have to go through, and I don't feel sorry for myself at all, but you asked, so here it goes. 1. Never really being sure whether your partner actually loves you or tolerates you because your money makes their life easier at times. 2. Having all your accomplishments invalidated by the fact that you have money. I'm the first to recognize that I haven't had to face most of the barriers that others had, and that I'm benefiting from incredible privilege. I'm eternally grateful for that. That said, I still think I have at least a bit of merit in the things I've done. I've known other people born into wealth who haven't done crap with their lives because they take everything for granted and think success is owed to them. Alternatively, having all your everyday life problems brushed away. For example, I understand that suffering from mental health issues is a lot easier when you can afford therapy, but it's still hard at times, and money doesn't magically make those go away overnight. As a woman, it can make it hard to navigate relationships because a lot of men still identify with the breadwinner role. The general guilt that comes with recognizing your privilege. I see a lot of my friends struggle with crippling debt and financial issues. I know I'm not personally responsible for this, and there isn't much I can do beyond helping out here and there, but it's very guilt-inducing to see how much the system is rigged against them, while simultaneously making it easier for me. That's it for my rich person problems. I genuinely appreciate your response. Not everyone is taking the question seriously, and by nature, kind of ragging on those in your position. I am not in your social class, but I can tell that you're a thoughtful human whose problems are as real as anyone else's. My boss is a pretty significantly wealthy guy, and his family in general is very wealthy. And looking in from the outside when he's in his venue drinking with people, there's definitely a problem of people taking advantage of being your friend for freebies and privilege over your staff. Cannot imagine going through life with that many fake people trying to get something. I have this problem, but from the opposite role. My friend is, I would not say rich, much better off than me. We like a lot of the same crap, so he's always asking me to go places with him. He'll ask me to go to music festivals with him, and I'll just say, nah, I can't afford the tickets. And he'll instantly respond with, dude, I got you, man. And then I feel bad accepting because I feel like I'm taking advantage of him. Sometimes I wish he'd just take the hint, lol. He's like my best friend, and I'm the godfather of his son, but it's tough not feeling that way. While I was going to college, my childhood best friend would ask me to go do stuff with him. Out to drinks, laser tag, stuff like that. Of course, my broke college student self couldn't afford any of it. He always said he'd pay for it, and added, I can always make more money, I can't make more friends so easily. I'll bet your friend feels the same way. He'd rather pay the extra money to have you there with him, sharing the experience. This is from a conversation I had with a guy I met on vacation. He had grown up fabulously rich, but he never really saw his parents that much, especially when he was a kid, as they were both high-achieving workaholics. Instead, he had a maid that had been there for as long as he could remember, put him to bed at night, breakfast in the morning, etc. So in his mind, he had two moms. The one that he met for dinner a few days a week demanded he brushed his hair and put on presentable clothes. And his real mom, the one that was always there, actually took care of him. When he was 5 years old, the maid quit. She had gotten a better job somewhere else and was looking forward to spending more time with her actual kids, and everybody was happy for her. Everybody smiled and told him to be happy she was moving on to something better, as she hugged him goodbye and happily walked out forever. He lost his real mom, and he wasn't even allowed to feel bad about it. I met this guy when he was 27, and he was still struggling with it. My partner grew up with a nanny. She said she remembers that when she fell and got hurt, she would run to the nanny for comfort. Also, when she said, "My mom cooked," she had to catch herself and say, my mom told the cook to make, but then when her mom had guests over, the cook would make all the food, but her mom would tell the guests that she cooked it. All your poor relatives move close to you and start asking you for things and money. I have a very wealthy friend, and seeing this firsthand blew my mind. I thought the moochers would be subtle, or ask for small things, or maybe just hang around in hopes of getting some scraps, Jackal style. No. Everyone from siblings down to the ex-boyfriend of a second cousin will just straight up demand that he buy them a vacation home or pay for their $80,000 around-the-world cruise, both real examples, and when he inevitably says no. They go scorched earth policy on social media and talk about how selfish he is and how he disowns his own family for money, and then a month later they are back begging on their doorstep. It's exhausting, and I'm just watching from the outside. This is probably why people like Aaron Rodgers do not speak to their families anymore. Pablo Escobar's problem with rats eating his stacks of money faster than he could deposit them would be a good poster child for this. Or that he spent $2,500 on rubber bands to bundle his money per month. This is my favorite factoid to use to explain wealth and the cartels, and a bunch of other stuff to my kids, except I replaced Coke with Legos and Pablo Escobar with Alabama football. Lifestyle creep. The more money they earn, the more they spend, and it never really feels like they're truly rich. On a similar note, if you have a stressful and demanding job that pays a lot, it's exceedingly hard to walk away from mental health. I have friends who quit their jobs every 6 to 9 months because they don't like the hours or their boss. But I have other friends that grind 75-hour weeks because they can't let go of $300K per year. How do the 75-hour guys actually fit a life in between that kind of work? Proper allocation of investment assets and tax planning are actually things you need to think about a lot, or hire someone else to think about, which in itself is something to think about. I lost you after the first 3 words. The other day, a client of my dad's wrote a $3K check for my medical bills. I've been sick for a while, and it came up in some casual conversation. The client recommended a place for medical testing. We went, got a consultation, but the price was too high to justify without insurance coverage. The client calls the place, sees we haven't done the tests yet, and he writes my dad a check for the full amount. $3K doesn't sound like a lot compared to some of these stories, but this may have changed the course of my life. His justification: I have more money than I can ever spend. I have a rich friend who just offered to cover all of my bills to get treatment for my chronic illness. It's nothing to him, but it will literally save my life. It's insane. Feeling like you can't talk about certain things with people who don't make as much. I'm not rich, but I make more than some friends. There have been times when I tell them about something and I get a sarcastic, "must be nice" reception. There's a lot of isolation that comes with wealth, particularly if your wealth goes up more than your friends. It's minor at first, and not such a big deal, but over time the gap becomes bigger and bigger, and it can start to become difficult to bridge that gulf. When you're younger, you might have been able to afford a small house when your friends, who are also doing well but not quite as well, are looking to buy an apartment. A few years later, and you live in a bigger house, in a much nicer neighborhood than them. It's not that different, but your friends tend to come to yours more, and often comment about how nice where you live is. You've known these guys for years, after all. Some areas of conversation have gradually moved off the table. Your stresses and successes at work are going to be different to theirs. It's lonely at the top in companies as most people don't understand it. Why would they? It's stuff you only really get with experience. You do your best to talk about their work worries, but while you used to get it, it's starting to become hard to stay interested. Interpersonal work dramas aren't the same anymore. They seem so minor compared to the weight of leadership and livelihoods that you feel, so you really don't talk about that stuff anymore, which is fine. There's lots of other stuff you have in common. Except the overlap in interests is starting to lessen. Some of your interests have crept into higher income things. You used to go on similar holidays, but now you're going further afield and having more luxurious holidays because you work hard and only get so much time off. So why shouldn't you spend your hard-earned money on yourself? Maybe you used to like to talk about cars, but now it's a bit awkward talking about the car you're looking at getting because it's more than the house deposit your friends just spent ages saving up for. Okay, maybe gaming, but you've got the latest console or computer because you got it on launch without batting an eyelid at the price, and you can't play the new games you'd like with them. Little areas of your commonality are gradually getting chipped away. Eventually, you grow further and further apart from your old friends. You make new friends in your neighborhood, or other parents from their school. It all feels a little bit forced, and not as natural as you used to be with your old friends. You still meet up with them maybe once or twice a year. Most of your time together is spent reminiscing. On the whole, you're happy and comfortable with your life, but you still really miss your old friends and the good old days. Trust. Is anyone doing things because they actually care for you or because of your money? It is a real problem for rich guys I know looking for marriage. Actually having someone love you is another. A good friend of mine has a terribly rich father, and he said that his dad never had friends, like my parents do, who come by from time to time and bring a small present like something from their shop or from the market and drink coffee together, or drink in the evening. That changed my perspective on a few rich people when I was younger. They miss out on small acts of kindness because people think it wouldn't affect them. Being rich really works for me because I love being left alone. A friend of mine married into a family that has old money. Was never my friend's intention, just turned out that the awesome down-to-earth person my friend married was from serious old money. 2 of the adult children in the family are currently trying to stop their parents from buying random houses for other rich families' kids. They don't even want the money. They want the parent to invest in philanthropy and the local community. The parent won't do it and just wants the rich kids from other families to be grateful to them. So somewhere out there, some people my age from a wealthy family are getting a free house from another wealthy family. Meanwhile, my parents' unemployment ran out. We have about 2 months runway before we have nothing. We're picking groceries carefully to save a few dollars. Houses in our area have gone up $50,000 in the past year, and we may as well be renters forever. It's surreal. I guess this is where the whole clan thing starts. If those people are smart, they wouldn't accept free housing. That's bait that they will use to guilt people. Things don't always come with strings. In some circles, buying your kids a house when they get married is just what you do, and there's very little thought to it. Just keeping up with the Joneses. I know people like that. Not being able to understand what money means to people below their financial status. I'm well off compared to other people in my country, but go to a school where most people are actually wealthy. Between both levels, I see that people cannot relate to the people below them in that regard, and it causes friction. Like when my friend and I organize a holiday together, she doesn't understand why I get annoyed when she wants to wait until the last minute to book tickets because she genuinely doesn't care whether they're 50 or 500 euros. Or when my partner's family car got stolen, they didn't bother getting reimbursement from the insurance because it was too annoying to set up. This means people also sometimes don't reimburse you when you pay for lunch because they already forgot about this, and the $30 are nothing, so why would it be for you? And they don't notice when you get them a really nice gift because all the gifts they get are really nice. This isn't malicious at all, just a genuinely different perception of reality. I ran into an old friend who was doing extremely well a few years back, who grew up wealthy as well. He mentioned to me how he and his fiancée wanted to buy their own apartment in New York because he was sick of both of them, throwing out $3,000 each for rent each month, and how it was draining their ability to travel. Did not occur to him that as a teacher I made significantly less than $3,000 a month, and when I told him, he thought I was lying because he genuinely could not fathom living on less than $10,000 a month. It was eye-opening for both of us for different reasons. Before anyone asks, yes, he knew and knows the poor exist, but he didn't understand that his own friends were poor, by his standard or otherwise, and just how many of us were and are struggling to make ends meet. He thought most of us were living below our means on purpose, and it took this conversation for it to click for him why he didn't see any of his old friends traveling the world or getting professional portraits done or buying fancy cars. He thought we were just living lives and not doing those things just because, and not because we couldn't. Not rich myself, but I have a family member who earns low 7 figures annually. The biggest problem they've struggled with is that our whole family comes from being poor, and they're the ones that made it. They've had to cut off entire parts of the family, including siblings and parents, because everyone just wants stuff from them. One of their parents demanded they buy them a home because you owe me for raising you. It's even worse for their siblings. They have kept their social media feed on a week-long delay, so if they travel anywhere that other family members are, they won't hit them up with a new scheme or ask for a loan. It's terrible to watch. When my great-grandmother died, they found out she owned 2 vacant lots in the Bay Area that were now worth over $2 million. It's been 7 years and all these distant relatives are still suing each other over every penny of the money. My great-grandmother was a manipulative psychopath and intentionally made her will as vague as possible, and also changed it about once every 3 months for the last 2 decades of her life. They should get together and put all the money in an investment fund. They all get an equal payout from each year. It's all going to get wasted on lawyer fees otherwise. I grew up wealthy, but not obscenely rich. Here are a few. Personally, I find it hard to accept the fact that it's very unlikely that I'll make the same amount my parents did. 2. It's sometimes awkward when people realize that my family is wealthy, especially in college with a lot of left-wing people. 3. It was hard for my parents growing up to not spoil me, though personally, I think they did a very good job. Saying no to your kid when you easily have the means to say yes with little cost to yourself is hard. 4. It feels like a lot of your issues get downplayed because you're wealthy. I've been struggling with mental health for the past few years, and a lot of the time people's attitude is that when you're wealthy you don't have problems. It can feel very dismissive. I don't want this to sound like complaining, as I'm grateful for how I was raised. Just observations. Point 1 hits hard for me. My dad was a guy who barely graduated high school and yet managed to be unusually successful. Through a combination of a monster work ethic and being in the right place at the right time, starting his own business. It's highly unlikely I'll ever have half that career success, as I'm entering a field where most make 70 to 90K. Definitely can feel like you're not measuring up to your lineage sometimes. Also, the feeling that even if you do make it or even surpass them, the accomplishment feels undercut because you came from something, but Dad came from absolutely nothing. I have a specific one. I know a few people from extremely rich families. I see terrible outcomes with third-generation wealth. When Dad is super successful, the kid doesn't have to do much, but at least sees someone working. When that kid, who doesn't do crap, then has kids, his kids are completely unmoored from reality. It's a lonely, dark existence when you are completely incompatible with society. From my experience of working a day with a billionaire, just not being able to live a normal life, having a drink in an ordinary bar, having normal conversations not revolving around work, having time for a simple walk, and so on. I would say that this is not true for a very large number of mega-wealthy people in tech. Sure, you have your Musk types who will get recognized at many places, but there are plenty of unknown tech billionaires, and 100 millionaires, and foreign nationals that live in the United States at least part-time. Many of them are very normal and stand in line at Whole Foods next to you, and you would never know. If you've ever been to downtown Palo Alto on a Friday night for dinner, there is a very high chance that you are sitting amongst hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of net worth and would never be able to tell. Then add in the frequency in which you will see high-end Teslas on a daily basis, so it's really not that hard to blend in, where cars are sometimes a sign of extreme wealth. Some of the wealthiest people in tech, especially from the first tech boom in the mid-90s, have never had a Business Insider article written about them. Look at the net worth of the world's biggest celebrities, and their wealth is a joke compared to anyone who worked in the first 100 employees at Google, for example. Rinse and repeat for all of the unicorns. I'm pretty sure no one here could name more than a handful. Wealth can easily buy anonymity. This is so true. I have friends who were early engineers at Google, and I know how much a couple of them are worth. Every once in a while, I will find myself reading some news stories that mentions the net worth of a sports or movie star, and I think, oh, I would have expected it to be more. That's like half of what my friend John is worth. And yeah, you could be standing behind my friend in the checkout line at the grocery store and you wouldn't notice anything whatsoever to distinguish him from any other customer. My husband has a rich acquaintance who was just agonizing about buying a $5 million yacht, which will probably be used a handful of times a year, so he decided to buy only a $3 million yacht instead. I can't wrap my mind around it. Do you mean to tell me this schmo was buying a brand new, already assembled yacht and not having someone design and construct his multi-million-dollar yacht specifically for him? Damn, these are some pretty serious problems. It really makes you think. Thanks for watching until the end. Be sure to stop by the channel, subscribe, and check out another video.